We need to build our base on big barbell exercises. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, I would greatly appreciate it. If you guys are not following or subscribed, please do so. And if you will be kind enough to drop me a comment down under the video, I would greatly appreciate that also. So let's get over to the topic at hand, which is, of course, big barbell lifts. And I've said this for years and years, and keep in mind, a lot of my clients have great physiques. I'm not always necessarily bodybuilding here because I am a strength athlete. I have been working a little bit on mine. I'm dieting down now, down like 4 pounds into my cut. But the thing is, guys, even for guys who are chasing aesthetics or a look, the big movements, big barbell exercises, even weighted body weight movements, I mean, those are really similar. Keep in mind, a squat is technically a weighted body weight exercise, right? But you have all these big movements. They're going to be the most efficient builders. And I want to be clear when I make this statement. I'm not telling you not to do curls. I'm not telling you not to do calf raises. I'm not telling you not to do hamstring curls on a machine. So we need to be clear. Let's be clear on this. I am not opposed to a lot of these things. That is not the point that we're making here. That's not where we're going with any of this. We're talking about where we build our base, where our foundation needs to be, right? What is it we need to do? And I genuinely feel, big barbell movements, that is where our base should be. That's where we're going to get the most bang for our buck. And they're going to be efficient. And I think people need to think also about it in terms of the long-term and neural drive. And I'll touch briefly on what my friend Christian Thibodeau says on that, who is a very, very well-published strength coach who has a great physique, builds athletes, builds bodybuilders, everyone else. He's been writing for T-Nation forever. He has his own take on that in neural drive and hypertrophy. But I digress. Back over to the point. The reason these big barbell movements work is because they work huge amounts of muscle, right? It is very easy to work almost all the major muscles in your body with a relatively small number of exercises. Before we even get into some of the other stuff, just think about a barbell row, a bench press, a squat, and a deadlift. Those 4 movements. Think about how much total muscle in your entire body is built with those. Okay, think about how much muscle is built with those. And no, I didn't even include the overhead press. Because if anything, I actually think the behind the neck press is better than the overhead press. When I look at it, just not everyone can do it. But push come to shove, it's technically a better mass builder. But that aside, so let's set aside something like a behind the neck push press, which I think is a phenomenal exercise. But think about those 4. Everything gets worked to some extent. So if you have a foundation in those, I always say weighted pull-ups is always my big go-to. I think people do weighted pull-ups, but I'll say a barbell row, could be interchangeable, right? Especially for the novice who can't do pull-ups, but step back and look at the muscles worked. All right, squat. Work the entire lower body. Everything but the hamstrings gets good development. Even your calves will grow from squatting. And it works the entire trunk, your entire core. And these things cannot be discounted. When you look at that one hypertrophy study, they actually wanted to look and see what would happen with squats and deadlifts. They found that both of them grew the entire torso significantly, right? All the muscles at the back, your core, everything else, they all grew in the studies where they've looked at them, like on MRI scans. Like, man, they're gaining muscle up top too. Okay, so think about a squat and think about a deadlift. So the squat's going to be quads, it's going to be glutes, it's going to be adductors, calves, all this stuff, plus some of your back. Deadlifts, overlap of all the things, but hamstrings get a much higher priority. You can build pretty good hamstrings off a deadlift, right? So hamstrings, glutes, erectors, but big chunk of your back, your calves, to some extent your quads, right? All these muscles get work. How about a barbell row? You get over, like, look at the barbell rows I'm doing here. Yeah, it works the entire back, top to bottom. The lats, the trap, the entire trap, the rear delt, a little bit of bicep, obviously. I would never tell guys that a barbell row is going to build great biceps. I curl for a reason, right? I have to curl. But, think about all those muscles and think about the secondary splash over to the posterior chain. That big barbell movement's still working. Some of those same muscles of the lower body, the deadlift and stuff, are working. This is a lot of muscle, guys. This is a lot of muscle. All right, then what about the bench press? And even bench press variations. You can be incline, decline, all those are all good movements. But even you take the flat bench, chest, front delts, triceps. Okay? Now you do those 4 exercises, right? You do those 4 exercises. Have you not worked a tremendous amount of muscle? Has most of the muscle mass in your body been stimulated enough to grow? The answer is yes, absolutely. Just those 4 movements. And people say, well, some muscles are getting left out. Well, I'll go so far as to say that, would they be left out if you did other barbell movements? So even then, let's say, and I'm not telling you guys to do an all barbell program, but what if that's all you had? So I've already given you that example, but what if all you had was barbell? A rack, a bench, barbell plates, Could you do with that? Of course, I could do pull-ups and chin-ups hanging off that bar if I had to, right? You got that, don't forget that. But what about the other things? Could you do calf raises with a barbell? Yeah. Can you do curls with a barbell? Yeah. Arnold loved the straight bar curl. Like Minzer loved the straight bar curl. All the way back in that era, guys. The 70s, those guys had jacked biceps off of it. Could you do shoulder work? Overhead press, behind the neck press, upright rows. Could you do tricep extensions with a barbell? Sure. You do them laying. You could even do them standing behind the head with a barbell. You can do calf raises with a barbell. You just get over and tippy toe up on a plate, load the bar just like a squat, step over to a plate inside the safety arms. You can do calf raises. What about even more hamstring dominant movements? Good mornings, Romanian deadlifts. So you can do all that stuff. You can work everything with a barbell, but those aren't always the big movements. I mentioned 4 of the big movements, right, up front. Okay, but what if you did those? Would most of the muscles in your body grow? Yeah, and they wouldn't be very efficient. Then you could come through and fill in the gaps. You could say, well, I didn't get enough bicep, or the long head of the tricep got neglected. So you could do pullovers or whatever, or extensions. You could do some other shoulder work. You could do upright rows. You could do shrugs, whatever. But you could do lateral raises, press downs. So we don't have to do barbell stuff. You can just come in and do other stuff. You just fill in the gaps. If you say, look, my biceps, my delts, maybe my hamstrings got neglected, we'll go in and train them. No problem. This is not a problem. But the barbell is an efficient foundation. And what about the strength end? People say, well, what if I only care about hypertrophy? I'd argue Christian Thibodeau pointed that out. He's like, the neural drive you get from doing the big movements will carry over to the neural drive on smaller exercises. He's like, if you get strong at them and you get that peripheral nervous system training, makes your nervous system stronger. He's like, you're going to technically be able to be a little more efficient with the other hypertrophy work, even the isolation later. Now, that's his opinion. I'm not saying it's 100% true, but it does make sense. It does make sense. And I've seen him express that in writings and articles. So even then, you're still going to get carryover potentially for some other stuff. It's just a great way to just build your overall base. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.